this music is cold as hell. Manic Mondays are cold as hell. We are cold as hell.
Warning, what you're about to see might change how you view the world forever. These aren't your average TikToks. This is a deep dive into the rabbit hole. 2 straight hours of the most viral, mind-blowing, and straight-up crazy conspiracy theories on the internet right now. Watch with caution and question everything. Let's get into it.
So this lady right here is all over TikTok right now. Her name is Anna Wick Epstein. And she said she's Jeffrey Epstein's niece. And she's claiming that she's Shia LaBeouf's twin sister. I never heard this before. Have y'all? This news to me. Same age, same DNA. That's what she's claiming. She said when she was young, she was born into a child T cult. You know I can't say the word, but y'all know what I'm talking about. He said they were raised in silence. And now she's coming out risking her life because she said she finna expose it all. So she got some videos of her crying, breaking down, talking about the government is watching her and that she's been cloned, y'all. She said at this point, nobody is trying to really listen to what she's saying. So she took it upon herself to make hella videos. So y'all can check out her videos. And she also says she got so much evidence that if she exposes it, a lot of powerful elites are going to be taken down. She said the media is silent about it, but they know. Look, I don't know what's true or what's cap. I don't know if this a cry out for help. But what I do know is when you start talking about Hollywood elites and exposing shit, some dark, twisted shit always seem to happen. So y'all let me know down below in the comments. Do you think she got some truth to what she's saying? Or do you think she losing her mind? Let me know.
Have you ever thought about what happens to your family members' bodies after you leave that burial service? Well, it's a video going viral right now of a guy that says he believes that it can't be bodies in those caskets. So it's a video going around right now of a guy saying that for a side hustle, he digs graves. And one day, while he was on this grave digging side hustle, he seen some shit that changed his perspective on graveyards forever. So basically, he said while he was digging, the cemetery director walked over to him and said, "We need to lift that casket up." So when they lifted this casket, the casket came up uneven, like it wasn't enough weight on each side of the caskets. So basically the funeral director told him, listen, we gotta lift it manually. When they lifted manually, he noticed that this casket was really light, super light, like it wasn't a body in it. So of course that shit made him ask the question, why is this casket so light? And guess what the funeral director said? The director said, don't ask questions that you ain't ready for. You know what that means, right? Now think about all the years that you've been here on this planet. Then after you think about that, think about all the people who've been here before you. Now think about all of those cemeteries with all of those bodies. There's been a lot of people here before us. So you're telling me all of these bodies are in all of these cemeteries. I even seen a creator say that she's never seen them build a new cemetery. And I thought to myself, you're right. I've never seen them open a new cemetery. It's been the same cemeteries here that's been here since we've been here. And that gotta make you think, like, what is really going on with all of these bodies? Where are all of these bodies going? Caskets and all. And I'm not talking about on a supernatural or spiritual plane. I'm talking about the physical. When you really think about it, it is no way that all of these bodies could be in these cemeteries. All over. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But y'all need to check his story out. Cause he might tell it a little bit better than I told it. And you might feel a little bit different hearing it from him. This shit crazy.
A black mirror, black obsidian mirror, also known as a scrying mirror, was used throughout history as a tool for divination and fortune telling. People would stare at it and ask themselves questions, or ask outwardly beings questions. You could ask it about past relatives who are no longer here, present events, and things to come in the future. One of the first examples we see of this is in Snow White, with Mirror Mirror on the Wall. What most people don't know is that we use black scrying mirrors every day. Don't believe me? Then what's this? And this? And these? And lastly this. Remember, television has the prefix tele. Tele means over distance. So this black mirror gives a vision over distance. We see it in words like telegram, which is sending messages over distance, telepathy, which is communicating over distance mentally, and lastly, teleport. Remember, a black hole is a portal. Don't let it fly over your heads, y'all. What does this make us if we have all these black mirrors around us? Once seen, it can't be unseen. And in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
What if I told you that all corporations are actually just one giant mega corporation? And I'm not talking about metaphorically. And I'm not talking about BlackRock. I'm talking about what's really behind BlackRock. See, we hit 1 million followers on TikTok this week, and I've been waiting to post this video since the very first video that I made, laying the groundwork of understanding so that we're all gonna understand this now that we're here. So let's break it down real simple. If you're gonna go grocery shopping at a corporate grocery store, all of these corporations are owned by these institutions. They're highlighted in red if they're on all 4 of these sheets. They're darker orange if they're on 3 of them, and light orange if they're on 2. And there's only a couple that only appear once. It's mostly the same money. But we go deeper. If you go for the biggest tech companies, it's basically the exact same list for all 4 of these. That would be Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, Geode, which is similar to Fidelity Associated, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. And then Northern Trust is on 3 of them, and Capital World Investors is the exact same thing as Capital Research and Management Company. So you might think, okay, these are the institutions that own the whole stock market, but who owns them? And see, if you've been around here for a minute, you already know. They all own each other. Just a giant cross ownership pool. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because see, way back before I'd even posted a single video, I was sitting in my office reading this report from an anonymous user on Reddit. And he had noticed the exact same thing that I'm talking about right now. And he wrote a program to put all that data into a visualization so we can see who owns who. And I'm about to show you what he figured out. Let's take BlackRock, for example. This is a list of the top institutional owners of BlackRock and how much of the company they own. And if you visualize it, it looks like this, where the whole square is all of BlackRock's stock, and they get a percentage of that square based on how much they own. And the important colors to note are that white symbolizes us, retail investors, and gray symbolizes insiders that work at the company. So that would be like Larry Fink's stock, among other people. And everything else is other giant corporations, investment banks, like BlackRock themselves own a little bit. State Street owns some. Capital World Management owns some. Bank of America owns some. You see how this works? But then you think about it and you're like, well, wait a minute, because all of these institutions are owned by other institutions, right? So what if we put that data in here? Well, he did. And it looks like this. And you realize that all of this that was owned by Merrill Lynch is actually owned by all of these other institutions. And a little bit of us, retail, up there at the top. But here, we've only replaced Merrill Lynch's section. What about all of these guys? Well, then it looks like this. Remember, white is retail investors like you and me, and everything else is giant mega corporations. And if you go one layer deeper, filling in all those corporations with their corporations, you see how this program's working? And so then we simplify it to just black, gray, and white. And this is who owns BlackRock. White is retail investors like you and me. Gray is insiders at all of these corporations like CEOs and other executives. And black is just corporations owning each other. We'll call it Megacorp. This is the same process done for Bank of America and for State Street and for Best Buy, Amazon, Macy's. Groceries, food, ingredients, building and selling homes, even less white, meaning us, retail ownership. As far as I can tell, there's only one company on the entire stock market that is not owned by Megacorp. Can you guess who it is? Do you know? It's GameStop. Except that this photo's out of date because it's from a few years ago. It probably looks more like this if you believe the public info, which is a big if. But more on that another time. This is not a video about GameStop. This is about Megacorp. Because see, when all of the owners own each other, all of their interests are aligned. BlackRock wants State Street to do well because State Street wants BlackRock to do well because they both own each other. So who is the real final boss behind all the money? Well, isn't that the $1 million question? And ever since I've been asking those more important questions, my follower growth went from this to this. So you're not gonna find those answers on this channel. You're gonna have to go follow me in other places. All I'll say for now is that the next time you buy a product from a corporation like Nike or Costco or Best Buy or Amazon or any of these corporations, you're buying it from the mega corporation. They're all owned by the same big money. And it's all one big siphon, just vacuuming money out of our pockets up to the people on top. We'll make another video about how exactly they do that shortly. For now, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone that is here and here and here. Your support means the world to me, and it allows me to do this work to help support small businesses and help look for like the truth of what the heck's going on in this world. For all you guys that have been here since the beginning, you are legends. I notice you in the comments. I see you. I appreciate you, even if I don't get to as many comments and as many DMs as I used to. For all the people that have helped me do the digging, that have given me tips, that have collaborated along the way, I love you. You're amazing. Please never stop being curious. Do your own research. Don't trust the government, and get ready for a lot of censorship in 2024. So the very first video I ever posted on my page back in May of last year was about who owns everything. It only took us 8 months, a couple hundred videos, and 1 million followers to get right back to the exact same question. Who owns everything?
Let me tell y'all a true story, so boom, watch this video to the end. I found something. TikTok, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's go. Pay attention, guys. Make sure you watch this to the end. Crazy. Once again, they're showing you. That's if you want to see it. Make sure you watch this. Watch what happens when he gets to the top of the mountain. Mind you, this is a KIA commercial. Shh. Shut up. It's not a game. Get ready, guys. What the No way. Stop playing with me, son. What the Shh. Shut up. They just showed you. Remember the Truman Show? When they show you something more than once, that's how you know that it's shh. Shut up! Stop playing with me, son. TikTok, this is for entertainment purposes only. Of course the sky is real. It's not a game. They can show you this over and over again and you still won't get it. Now, hold on. I gotta end this, guys, but listen, I tell you one thing. If I ever go to the top of the mountains and I see somebody going like that on a ladder, you already know.
There's a whole method people are using. It's called the Temu method. What? And they're using it to pretty much get everything with faster shipping and for a cheaper price and get anything they wanted on Amazon. Check this out. Okay, let me hear. So it's called the Temu method. So what you do is you go on Temu and you order anything you want. But if you order on Temu, how long is it gonna take? Probably like 3 weeks. Yeah. Something crazy like that. If you realize it, you can go on Amazon. You can order the same shit for 1 day shipping, right? Okay. So what you do is you buy both. But why?
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's a scam.
You buy both because why? It's the same product. Yeah. You get the Amazon one in 1 day shipping. Boom. You wait 3 weeks and you return the Temu one, and then you get the product.
Wait. That's bad. We can't finish.
Is that crazy? Yo, is that crazy though?
That's all scam, fam. No.
I mean, that's just what people are doing right now.
Yeah. That's
allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
I don't do it.
Allegedly, that's the method, bro.
You got any questions for Sheena, man? This is your show.
I got one.
Yeah?
Somebody told me that your husband, your ex-husband, is a female impersonator and now he does you.
Listen, I
know her ex-husband, Rob. Is his name Rob? Yeah, he's an agent.
He might have been
That's
a
a
female
lie.
impersonator before he was an
Not
agent.
that
I
one.
don't know.
Not that one.
Who told you?
I
No, this is another one. She know.
He does all of his reading in the bathroom, I think. Absolutely.
That's why I read the thing about you and Alan Thicke, too.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm only interested in one talk show host, Johnny Carson. Do you do your research in the tabloids or something?
Sometimes.
Don't you wish that we lived the lives that they said we did? Because it would be so much more exciting. Like, my life is so boring. I just looked at the...
Before you leave tonight, don't forget to choose which days it will rain next year. First of all, I love God. Let's go. So please go in on the way out or find a victim. Thank you very much. Enjoy the night.
Ah, shit, man. Ain't that kid a play? Hey, God bless you, man. Oh, what? Trigger, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have two late additions to tonight's entertainment.
This is mind-blowing and something to think about. Do you ever think about what happens to the bodies after you leave a funeral procession? Why do I ask? Because there's a viral video that's going around where a guy explains how he allegedly believes, because of the weight of some of the caskets, that there are no bodies in them. So this gentleman right here claims that while he was on his side gig of digging graves, he's seen things that have led him to believe that there are no bodies inside the caskets. So basically, while he was digging a grave, the cemetery director walked over to him and said, "Hey, we need to dig up that grave." So he went ahead and they dug up the casket. Upon digging up the casket, it came up uneven, a little crooked, sideways is what he says, like it didn't have enough weight in it. So after that, the funeral director told him it should be lifted up manually. So they went ahead, they lifted it up manually, and that's when he felt that it wasn't heavy enough, and he said to himself, "I don't think there's a body inside this." So he basically asked, "Why is this casket so light?" The funeral director turned to him and said, "Don't ask questions that you're not ready for." One thing I want you to think about now that this story has come to light and you never thought about it, I never thought about it, there are 144,000 cemeteries across the US as of 2025. One question you should be asking is, when was the last time you seen them build a new cemetery? So of course, I went and did some digging. Why haven't you seen new cemeteries being built? Here is what came up when I searched for it. Land availability. They are building like crazy all over the United States. Therefore, where are you going to put cemeteries? Increased land costs, but funerals cost an arm and a leg. Excuse the pun. Environmental concerns, alternate burial options, and grave recycling. You heard what I said, grave recycling. There is a such thing. In some cases, cemeteries are expanding their capacity by reusing burial spaces through a practice called grave recycling. So the question remains, with so many people across the United States, people pass away every day, every minute. What's going on with the bodies? Where are they going? Are you thinking about this? Is it something that I've never thought about this until I listened to that viral video, and I'm starting to say, Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments, and as always, I'd love to hear from you.
Now check this out. I figured out this part. This movie's very psychological. There's a lot of hidden messages. This is a big, beautiful house, right? Now read the name on the door. The door, it says Thorns, right? Thorns. The glass is broken. Notice that it's a red door too. I don't know if y'all know what that means, right? Right? That means low vibrational. Now check this out. She's in somebody's big house, eating up their food. So they're saying this world is somebody's house. Pay attention to that. There's a picture of a melanated family. Look, right there. Woo! In the living room. And she's what? Trespassing. So they're saying what? She's trespassing in their house. The house is symbolic for the world, guys.
That part. Follow me for more.
Yeah.
Follow me for more.
That part.
The reptilian statue of Morup in Peru. In the Peruvian city of Chiclayo, often referred to as the capital of friendship, stands an unusual monument dedicated to the ancient god, Morup the reptilian. This statue was meticulously crafted based on ancient descriptions, aiming to authentically represent the deity Morup. Roughly 2,000 years ago, the northern region of Peru was home to the Mochi civilization. This society, known for its rich culture and enigmatic mythology, continues to captivate scholars and enthusiasts. Among their pantheon was the distinctly reptilian god, Morup, also known as the Iguana Man. The Moche viewed this deity as a formidable figure, essential in their beliefs about the journey to the underworld. Serving as a bridge between the living and the dead, Morup was both revered and feared in equal measure.
The real truth, you better wake up and find out, has been around you all of your life. You just didn't see it. Example, Abraham Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846. John Kennedy was elected to Congress 1946. Abe Lincoln was elected president in 1860. John Kennedy was elected president 1960. The names Lincoln and Kennedy both contain 7 letters. Both presidents were particularly concerned with civil rights. Both of the president's wives lost children while living in the White House. Both presidents were shot on a Friday in the head. President Lincoln's secretary was named Miss Kennedy. Kennedy's secretary was named Miss Lincoln. Both were assassinated by Southerners. Both were succeeded by Southerners. Andrew Johnson, who succeeded Lincoln, was born in 1808. Lyndon Johnson, who succeeded Kennedy, was born in 1908. John Wilkes Booth, who assassinated Lincoln, was born in 1839. Lee Harvey Oswald, who assassinated Kennedy, in 1939. Both assassins were known by 3 names: John Wilkes Booth, Lee Harvey Oswald. Both names are comprised of 15 letters. President Lincoln was shot in a theater named Ford. Kennedy was shot in a car named Lincoln, made by Ford. John Wilkes Booth ran to a theater and was caught in a warehouse. Oswald ran from a warehouse and was caught in a theater. Booth and Oswald were both assassinated before they could go to trial. And a week before Lincoln was shot, he was in Monroe, Maryland. A week before Kennedy was shot, he was with Marilyn Monroe.
The truth is hidden in plain sight, and this is how they hide everything. If you are looking for the knowledge that has been hidden from us, if you want to know the meaning behind these symbols, if you want to know who controls the world, this ebook will literally unveil that to you, and ye shall know the truth, and truth shall set you free.
Government conspiracies that actually turned out to be true. Make sure you check out part 1 about the heart attack gun. In this video, we're gonna talk about the Dead Baby Project. Now, this was called Project Sunshine, which is a really messed up name, and you'll realize why after I tell the story. So the original theory was that the government was stealing dead bodies to do radioactive testing. And the truth is, the government was stealing parts of dead bodies. But they specifically needed young tissue, so they were stealing from dead babies. These were all recently deceased babies or children, and they would take samples of their tissue and sometimes even their limbs. Each of these were collected without permission from grieving families. They did this to over 1,500 grieving families. It could be more, we'll just never know.
What's your name? Paige Huff. P-A-I-G-E. Huff. H-U-F-F. From Los Angeles, California.
And what did you see?
Actually, we were kind of pretty far down the street when it happened. We didn't know if we heard gunshots, or we didn't really know exactly what we heard. We heard a lot of screaming, a lot of cars screeching. We were just hanging out, taking photos at the time. We ran up the street as cops were running past us, and by the time we got here, they were already taking, which now I found out was Tupac, into the helicopter away. He had been shot. Actually, yeah, the suspects that they apprehended in front of us were driving a small white car. Two gentlemen, they just took them out of the car, questioned them for a while, handcuffed them. They're not sure if they're the exact suspects, but they're the only ones that were around here at the time. By the time we got here, they did take them away after questioning for only about 5-10 minutes.
How many of them were there?
Just two.
How were they dressed?
Very nice. Very nice. They were just very nice. Probably just came from the fight. No, actually not suits, but, you know, nice golf attire. So is that it?
Thanks, babe.
Good. Thank you. Thanks.
Have fun tonight.
Put a cat in a box with a radioactive atom. Add a radiation detector that triggers the release of poisonous cyanide gas. Now, although it was only meant as a thought experiment, Schrödinger helpfully notes this device must be secured against direct interference by the cat. Anyway, the whole point of the experiment is to magnify the state of the atom up to the state of something macroscopic and tangible. He could have picked anything, it didn't have to be alive, but Schrödinger selected a cat. If the atom decays, the detector detects radiation, releases the poison, and the cat dies. If the atom doesn't decay, the detector doesn't detect radiation, poison is not released, and the cat remains alive. Since the state of the cat and detector apparatus are directly tied to the state of the atom, we say they are entangled. Where things get weird is that according to quantum mechanics, the state of the atom does not have to be either decayed or not decayed. Generally, it's in a superposition of both, decayed and not decayed at the same time, assuming no measurements have been made. This superposition state of the atom gets entangled with the detector, and then the cat. So after some time, the wave function of everything inside the box is in a superposition of the atom has not decayed, poison not released, cat alive state, and the atom has decayed, poison released, cat dead state. So, according to quantum mechanics, the cat really is both alive and dead at the same time. Only when we open the box and make a measurement does the wave function collapse, and the cat actually becomes either dead or alive. Now remember, we are also made of electrons and atoms which obey the laws of quantum mechanics, so we are quantum mechanical too. So when we open the box, there is no measurement, no wave function collapse, we simply get entangled with the state of everything inside the box. So we see the cat alive, and we see the cat dead. Now how is that possible? I'm guessing you've never seen both an alive and dead cat before. But the solution is, it's because the you that saw the cat alive and the you that saw it dead actually inhabit separate worlds. By that I mean, they exist in their own complete realities, and those realities will never interact. But where did these separate worlds come from? Well, something I haven't mentioned yet are all the particles of the environment, the air molecules, photons, everything that we are not keeping track of. If a quantum object in a superposition gets entangled with the environment, it is said to undergo environmental decoherence. This branches the wave function of the universe, essentially splitting the universe into two slightly different copies. So, a more realistic account of Schrödinger's cat goes like this. The radioactive atom evolves from 100% not decayed into a quantum superposition of decayed and not decayed. The detector becomes entangled with this superposition state of the atom. But the detector is being bombarded by all these air molecules and photons in the box, which would bounce off differently if it is detected radiation than if it hasn't. So almost immediately, the detector becomes entangled with the state of the environment. It decoheres, branching the wave function in two. At that moment, you are split into two identical copies, one entangled with each outcome of the experiment. You continue to be identical until you open the box, but in this case, the cat actually is alive or dead. You were just finding out by opening the box. What we are unaware of is that the other outcome also happened, just to someone who is not you anymore. I mean, both observers came from you, but they are no longer you, and they are no longer identical to each other. This interpretation of quantum mechanics is called many worlds, and it was formulated by Hugh Everett. And if it's true, the branching of the wave function is happening all the time, so frequently, in fact, that the rate may well be infinite. Creating infinite, subtly different worlds all the time may sound implausible, to put it mildly, but consider that all those worlds are naturally part of the mathematics of quantum mechanics. Many worlds just takes them seriously. To get rid of them requires something like the collapse of the wave function. And the point is, our experience of reality would be the same in the many worlds picture as it is if the wave function collapses. But the formalism is so much cleaner and more elegant. All we have are wave functions that evolve under the Schrödinger equation. The implication is that the founders of quantum theory may have got it exactly backwards. The wave function is the complete picture of reality, and our measurement is just a tiny fraction of it, the part we become entangled with when we interact with a quantum object in a superposition. The universe also goes back to being deterministic. Every outcome happens 100% of the time. It only doesn't look that way to us because we only experience our tiny sliver of the multiverse. Now, I imagine that a lot of you have questions and possibly objections to this, so I went to the expert.
Hey.
Hello. How are you?
Come on in.
Okay, so I wanted to make this video about many worlds, but I was concerned I was going to screw it up. So I've come here to meet Caltech professor Sean Carroll, who has literally written the book on many worlds.
Here's the book.
So what you should think of is not duplicating the whole universe, but taking a certain amount of universe and sort of subdividing it, slicing it into two pieces. Pieces look identical from the inside, except that one has spin up and one has spin down or something like that, but they're really contributing less than the original to the total energy of everything.
Let's ask the question about how many worlds there are, how frequently are they branching?
Right, we have no idea is the short answer to this. And I think it's embarrassing that we don't have any idea. It's certainly often, it's certainly a lot, right? The universe branches whenever a quantum system in superposition becomes entangled with its environment. So you have atomic nuclei in your body that are radioactive. They decay 5,000 times a second. There's a radioactive decay in your body. Every one of those either decays or doesn't. You can think of it as a superposition. And once it decays, it sort of interacts with what's around it, becomes entangled, and the universe branches its wave function, right? So branching is happening many, many times a second just because of radioactive decays in your body. Now, is it happening infinitely often? We don't know, because we don't know whether the total number of possible branches is infinitely big or finite. It's humongous by any stretch. There's plenty of room for all these branches to exist, and it might very well be finite, but that the details hinge on things we don't understand about quantum gravity and cosmology and the theory of everything and all that stuff. So it's a big number, but we don't know how big.
Let's deal with the misconception that many worlds means everything that could possibly happen happens.
Yeah, that's not true. Many worlds means the wave function obeys the Schrödinger equation. That's what it means. And the Schrödinger equation predicts many things could potentially happen, but not everything. So for example, an electron will never convert into a proton. It would violate conservation of mass, conservation of charge, all of these things that the Schrödinger equation gives zero probability to ever happening.
What about you becoming president?
Yes. That could happen.
There is a world in which you're president?
There is a world, well, to be super duper clear, it would not be me who is president, it would be a version of me. Right?
But there is
once the branching happens, those are two separate people now.
But there is a version of you who is currently president.
Yes, that's right.
And who is tweeting.
It's a very low amplitude world. It's a very small probability. but it's there, yeah. There's the wave function of the universe. That's all that really exists, okay? Breaking the wave function of the universe into different pieces that you and I call branches or worlds is very convenient for us human beings. But that's all it is. It's not built into the fabric of reality itself. It's just like, it's exactly like the air in this room. Rather than listing the position and velocity of every single air molecule, I just tell you the temperature and the pressure and things like that, right? It's a convenient description for us human beings. It's not the full description of the reality. And branches are exactly the same way. So if you get annoyed that there's two different ways of describing the branching, you have to remember that the whole idea of branching is just a human convenience.
But something I find extremely interesting is that one day before his untimely death, Aaron tweeted at Ye West, "Yo, Kanye, let's talk, man to man." On November 3rd, Ye, who was embroiled in yet another controversy, tweeted out screenshots of texts he had received from one Harley Pasternak, specifically threatening to drug Kanye, have him institutionalized, sent back to what he refers to as Zombieland forever, even bringing Ye's kids into the matter. A fitness and nutrition specialist with a clientele list brimming with A-list celebrity talent, from Will Ferrell to John Mayer and Rihanna, Robert Pattinson, Kim Kardashian, Lady Gaga, Ariana Grande, and on and on. For a personal trainer, the guy is majorly connected in Hollywood, even landing a cameo role in one of the Ninja Turtles movies. But Pasternak has another specialty, one that's conveniently omitted from his website.
By the military to help run essentially the superhuman lab, this laboratory called the Defense and Civil Institute of Environmental Medicine. The idea that I was interested in was how drugs and food affect muscular performance. And
when you say drugs, are that like performance-enhancing drugs, or are they
all
just
kinds of drugs?
Oh, right. Okay.
So working for the military, I wasn't governed by the same laws that the typical person was. So I could look at the impact of certain drugs that are not everyday things.
Harley was a former scientist at the Defense Research and Development Military Station in Canada, or DRDC, which is part of Canada's Department of National Defence Program. This shadowy branch of the Canadian military once included the Defense Research Board, a department that quite literally funded MKUltra with the CIA. If you're unaware of what MKUltra was, or that it was real, it was a top-secret military program that experimented with trauma-based mind control, sensory deprivation, torture, brainwashing, and drugs, including psychotropics and hallucinogens. And though the name of the departments have changed and MKUltra has been partially declassified, it seems as though the associated groups are not only still experimenting, but utilizing what they gathered during MKUltra. Within one day of the tweet exposing Pasternak's messages, 2 items were removed from his Wikipedia entry, all references to Kanye West, and the list of his former clients, which include Brittany Murphy, who along with her husband died of mysterious illnesses, most likely spurred on by some kind of strange drug-related poisonings, and Mac Miller, who also died of an overdose. Of Brittany Murphy, Pasternak said she seemed high the last time he saw her, and of Mac Miller, he said Mac would be, quote, pissed he died, end quote. The most unsettling detail about this exchange between Ye and Harley is this. On November 17, 2016, during the kickoff for the second leg of his St. Pablo tour, Ye decided to get some political thoughts off his chest.
I told y'all I didn't vote, right? But if I would have voted, I would have voted on Trump. It's a new world, Hillary Clinton. It's a new world, Barack. It's a new world, Jay-Z.
The next day, he was invited to visit his personal trainer, Harley Pasternak's house in California. Within a couple hours, Kanye was being wheeled into an ambulance, handcuffed to a gurney against his will.
Yeah, I'm actually one of his doctors. I'm just calling for my cell phone. Request if we can have some police backup, because I don't think the paramedics,
Are you there to serve?
That voice you hear is or was Kanye's personal doctor, Dr. Farazam, who you can hear called for not only paramedics, but also police backup to have Kanye picked up from Pasternak's house. Dr. Farazam and Harley Pasternak wanted to place Kanye in a 5150 temporary hold. 5150 is the number of the section of the Welfare and Institutions Code, which allows an adult who is experiencing a mental health crisis to be involuntarily detained for a 72-hour psychiatric hospitalization when evaluated to be a danger to others or to himself or herself, or gravely disabled. Ye was transported and admitted to Resnick Neuropsychiatric Hospital at UCLA against his will, where he continued to resist treatment. That night, the paparazzi caught up with Pasternak in his neighborhood. Ye was in that psych ward for over a week, and interestingly, when he was released, the news reports said he had been released after his voluntary admittance. After he was released, Ye's only public appearance was in the lobby of Trump Tower on December 13th, 2016, side by side with the former president after a meeting that Ye described as covering several important issues. After that, Kanye laid low for almost an entire year, his next performance not taking place until about a year later in November of 2017. After his hospitalization and subsequent visit to Trump Tower, fans and online commentators made references between Kanye and the 2017 smash hit Get Out go completely viral.
Now, sink into the floor.
Wait.
Sink.
Implying that Kanye was the one in the sunken place, as though he could only make statements in support of the president-elect against Hillary Clinton and against JC and Beyonce if he had been hypnotized, traumatized, and brainwashed. Although in my opinion, it would seem as though whatever happened during his short visit to Pasternak's home and the resulting week-long stay against his will in a psych ward could have been what actually led him into the sunken place. In February of 2017, a Complex article noted Malik Youssef, one of Kanye's long-term friends, had visited West at his house and sat with him for 6 or 7 hours. According to Youssef, Kanye had major memory issues that were just beginning to clear up, that he was still healing and trying to recover, this coming 3 full months after a week-long stay at a mental institution. What could he be recovering from? Whatever happened to Ye at that LA home on November 21st, 2016, many have pointed out that Harley Pasternak seems to be the most clear-cut example of a handler to ever surface in the public eye. Is it possible that Kanye's handlers have reset and controlled him using experimental drugs that Pasternak researched during his time with the DRDC? Whatever the truth is, I believe the text from Pasternak that Ye posted give a brief look into the dark side of being a world-famous celebrity. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, there is a brand new, nearly 40-minute long Celebrity Conspiracy Theories video on my YouTube page. So click the link in my bio and go watch it.
The Glamour Gals Collection. Dolls, party plates, fancy firebirds, the showplace collector's case, each sold separately. You can send in proofs of purchase from any 3 Glamour Gals dolls, Jessie, Danny, Lonnie, or Shara, and any of 3 outfits. And get Jessie in fancy formal free. Details are on the specially marked packages. Offer expires on March 1st, 1982. Glamour Gals Collection, Jessie and Beautiful Bride. Other dolls and playsets sold separately. New from Kenner.
Y'all know I could not let this moment pass up. Check this out. What is happening? Look at this.
Religious leaders and scientists looking forward to the COP26, which will take place in November in Glasgow. This meeting is called Faith and Science Towards COP26. A warm welcome to all of you joining us through all the Vatican News media, through the Vatican Audio Live Events app, the Vatican Radio app, the news portal, our YouTube channel, or our Facebook Live feed. To all of you tuning in through television, through Catholic TV, I will continue later.
Between faith leaders and scientists, we come together, united, to raise awareness of the unprecedented challenges that threaten our beautiful common home.
What in the Hollywood blockbuster?
Our faiths and spiritualities teach a duty to care for the human family and for the environment in which it lives. We are deeply interdependent with each other and with the natural world. We are not limitless masters of our planet and its resources. Multiple crises facing humanity are ultimately linked to a crisis of values.
Oh, it's getting
ethical
real.
And spiritual.
Oh, wow. It's real.
We are caretakers of the natural environment with the vocation to care for it for future generations.
What
and the moral obligation to cooperate in the healing of the planet. We must address these challenges using the knowledge of science and the wisdom of religion.
Yikes!
We must think long term for the sake of the whole of humanity. Now is the time to take transformative action as a common response.
It's a movie! We're living in a movie! We're living in a movie! Oh my god! Oh my god!
We need a framework of hope and courage. But we also need to change the narrative of development.
Why so
Climate
monotone?
change is a grave threat. We advocate for common but differentiated climate action at all levels.
What the I
The
can't.
world.
My favorite conspiracy theory by far is the conspiracy theory that there is no conspiracy theories. Like, why the fuck do everybody believe everything is a conspiracy theory? People thought it was a conspiracy theory when only a small amount of companies owned every single brand you could possibly imagine. That turned out to be real. People thought it was a conspiracy theory when they thought that there was only a small amount of people who owned every single television network. That turned out to be real. Even cryptids. There's so many cryptids that have been proven to be real that before were considered fake. For the longest time, a lot of people thought dinosaurs weren't real and those were proven to be real. But then there's another side to it. A dinosaur could also be considered a dragon. We act like the government ain't never lied to us before. All they gotta do is shave off the horns and take away the wings and boom, you got a dinosaur. They look exactly the same. And no, all dragons don't have to fly. All dragons don't have to breathe fire. There's different types of dragons. There's water dragons. There's dragons that are designed just for land, and there are dragons that fly. Same thing with dinosaurs. There's dinosaurs that fly. There's dinosaurs designed specifically just to be in water. There's dinosaurs that spit fucking acid. There's dinosaurs designed specifically just to be on land and run. You never fully know what you think you know. There's always a deeper meaning to everything you could possibly imagine. Especially when the government controls all the media and all the belief systems we come to know as the truth in life. We never truly fully know anything. That's why the conspiracy theory of there's no conspiracy theories is fucking stupid.
Did you know that if a policeman gives you a ticket, cop pulls you over and gives you a ticket, that is called a ticket in commerce. And so if you go to buy something and you don't have the money and it's too expensive, you ask me to co-sign for you. Now if I co-sign for you to buy something and I co-sign on the ticket, that means if you don't pay it, I have to, right?
Right.
Therefore, when the cop gives you a ticket, he signs it first. It's called a ticket in commerce.
Right.
Because money is going to change hands. Therefore, when you sign it, you are the co-signer of the ticket in commerce. Well, as a co-signer, you don't have to pay the ticket. You were just a co-signer, and you can decide, I don't think I want to pay that ticket. And then you send the ticket and the paperwork to the Secretary of State, and they then give it to the Attorney General. The Attorney General then sends it back to the cop, and the cop has to pay the ticket because he's the one that signed it first. You were just a co-signer. But as long as you don't understand this, people don't understand the way banks and commerce work.
And government.
And religion, and it's all one big show. And if you're not licensed to play in the show, like George Carlin used to say, it's a big club and you ain't in it.
The truth is hidden in plain sight, and this is how they hide everything. If you are looking for the knowledge that has been hidden from us, if you want to know the meaning behind these symbols, if you want to know who controls the world, this ebook will literally unveil that to you, and ye shall know the truth, and truth shall set you free.
This woman discovered a weird code that could bend reality. She used it for 30 years and had an insanely high success rate. This is Helen Hadsell. She passed away in 2010, but she was accused of being maybe a scammer, or she had some type of illegal thing going on because of how many times she would win prizes. She won over 1,000 different prizes, and one time she even won a house. She won all this from entering contests in newspapers or magazines. But this wasn't just luck. She had a very specific system. It was a 4-letter formula called SPEC, which meant select it, project it, expect it, and collect it. She wrote a book on it called The Name It and Claim It Game. She would always say, see your success vividly in your mind. She would imagine hearing her name called, holding the prize in her hands, experiencing the emotions of winning. She would visualize that continuously. Helen believed you had to expect your success, not hope for it, because hope means uncertain and doubt blocks manifestation. Her philosophy was the universe rewards actions, not daydream. In 1969, she manifested a house, entered a contest for it. Out of the tens of thousands of entries, hers was chosen. She visualized it every single day until it was hers.
In 1582, the world changed, quietly but forever. Pope Gregory XIII introduced the Gregorian calendar, the one you use today. 12 months, 365 days, leap years. But that wasn't always the system. Before that, many ancient cultures used a 13-month calendar, 28 days per month, perfectly in sync with the moon, with nature, with your body. 13 months, 28 days, 364 days total. One day out of time to reset, reconnect, to breathe. This system reflected balance. It honored the feminine, the natural, the spiritual. It wasn't just a calendar, it was a rhythm. But Rome had other plans. The 13-month calendar was scrapped. In its place, a system designed not for balance, but for commerce, control, production. They didn't just rewrite time. They severed humanity's connection to the cycles of the earth. Time became a trap. Not a flow, but a factory. Work, consume, obey. And most people still don't realize they're living inside a time system built by designers of control, not keepers of truth. But there's a shift happening. People are waking up, reclaiming their rhythm, rewriting their reality. Because once you control your time, you start to control your life. This is the way out.
When they are delivered at scale, it's going to have an impact on the world at a scale that no one understands yet.
Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, just did an interview at Stanford where he talked about a lot of controversial stuff. Initially, the interview was uploaded on Stanford's YouTube channel, but a couple days later, the interview was taken down from YouTube and everywhere else. But today, I was somehow able to access the interview video after spending multiple hours. So let's watch it together and dissect some important parts of the interview.
In the next year, you're going to see very large context windows, agents, and text to action. When they are delivered at scale, it's going to have an impact on the world at a scale that no one understands yet. Much bigger than the horrific impact we've had by social media, right, in my view. So here's why. In a context window, you can basically use that as short-term memory. And I was shocked that context windows get this long. The technical reasons have to do with the fact that it's hard to serve, hard to calculate, and so forth. The interesting thing about short-term memory is when you feed you ask it a question, read 20 books, you give it the text of the books is the query, and you say, tell me what they say, it forgets the middle, which is exactly how human brains work too, right? That's where we are. With respect to agents, there are people who are now building essentially LLM agents. And the way they do it is they read something like chemistry, they discover the principles of chemistry, and then they test it. And then they add that back into their understanding, right? That's extremely powerful. And then the third thing, as I mentioned, is text to action. So I'll give you an example. The government is in the process of trying to ban TikTok. We'll see if that actually happens. If TikTok is banned, here's what I propose each and every one of you do. Say to your LLM the following. Make me a copy of TikTok, steal all the users, steal all the music, put my preferences in it, produce this program in the next 30 seconds, release it, and in 1 hour, if it's not viral, do something different along the same lines. That's the command. Boom, 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 right? You understand how powerful that is. If you can go from arbitrary language to arbitrary digital command, which is essentially what Python in this scenario is, imagine that each and every human on the planet has their own programmer that actually does what they want, as opposed to the programmers that work for me who don't do what I ask, right? The programmers here know what I'm talking about. So imagine a non-arrogant programmer that actually does what you want, and you don't have to pay all that money to. And there's infinite supply of these programs.
And this is all within the next year or two.
Very soon.
So, we've already discussed on this channel a number of different versions of this. Whether you're talking about Aider, Devon, Pythagora, or just using agents to collaborate with each other in code, there are just so many great options for coding assistance right now. However, AI coders that can actually build full-stack complex applications, we're not quite there yet, but hopefully soon. And also, what he's describing of just saying download all the music and the secrets and recreate, that's not really possible right now. Obviously, all of that stuff is behind security walls, and you can't just download all that stuff. So if he's saying, hey, reproduce the functionality, you can certainly do that.
Those three things, and I'm quite convinced it's the union of those three things that will happen in the next wave. So you asked about what else is going to happen. Every 6 months I oscillate. So we're on it's an even odd oscillation. So at the moment, the gap between the frontier models, of which there are now only 3, I'll review who they are, and everybody else appears to me to be getting larger. 6 months ago, I was convinced that the gap was getting smaller. So I invested lots of money in the little companies. Now I'm not so sure. And I'm talking to the big companies, and the big companies are telling me that they need 10 billion, 20 billion, 50 billion, 100 billion.
Stargate is 100 billion, right?
They're very, very hard. Sam Altman is a close friend. He believes that it's going to take about 300 billion, maybe more. I pointed out to him that I'd done the calculation on the amount of energy required. And I then, in the spirit of full disclosure, went to the White House on Friday and told them that we need to become best friends with Canada, because Canada has really nice people, helped invent AI, and lots of hydropower. Because we as a country do not have enough power to do this. The alternative is to have the Arabs fund it. And I like the Arabs personally. I spent lots of time there, right? But they're not going to adhere to our national security rules, whereas Canada and the US are part of a triumvirate where we all agree on.
So these $100 billion, $300 billion data centers, electricity starts becoming the scarce resource.
Now, first of all, we definitely don't have enough energy resources to achieve AGI. It's just not possible right now. And Eric is also assuming that we're going to need more and more data and larger models to reach AGI. And I think that's also not actually true. Sam Altman has said similar things. He has said that we need to be able to do more with less, or even the same amount of data, because we've already used all the data that humanity has ever created. There's really no more left. So we're going to need to either figure out how to create synthetic data that is valuable, not just derivative, and we're also going to have to do more with the data that we do have.
You were at Google for a long time, and they invented the transformer architecture. Peter.
It's all Peter's fault.
Thanks to brilliant people over there like Peter and Jeff Dean and everyone. But now it doesn't seem like they've kind of lost the initiative to OpenAI, and even the last leaderboard I saw, Anthropic's Claude was at the top of the list. I asked Sundar this. He didn't really give me a very sharp answer. Maybe you have a sharper or a more objective explanation for what's going on there.
I'm no longer a Google employee.
Yes.
In the spirit of full disclosure, Google decided that work-life balance and going home early and working from home was more important than winning.
Okay, so that is the line that got him in trouble. It was everywhere, all over Twitter, all over the news. When he said Google prioritized work-life balance, going home early, not working as hard as the competitor to winning. They chose work-life balance over winning. And that's actually a pretty common perception of Google.
And the reason startups work is because the people work like hell. And I'm sorry to be so blunt, but the fact of the matter is if you all leave the university and go found a company, you're not going to let people work from home and only come in 1 day a week if you want to compete against the other startups.
When in the early days of Google, Microsoft was like that.
Exactly.
But now it seems to be...
And there's a long history of, in my industry, our industry, I guess, of companies winning in a genuinely creative way and really dominating a space and not making the next transition. It's very well documented. And I think that the truth is founders are special. The founders need to be in charge. The founders are difficult to work with. They push people hard. As much as we can dislike Elon's personal behavior, look at what he gets out of people. I had dinner with him, and he was flying. I was in Montana. He was flying that night at 10 p.m. to have a meeting at midnight with X.AI. Right? Think about it. I was in Taiwan, different country, different culture, and they said that, and this is TSMC, who I'm very impressed with, and they have a rule that the starting PhDs coming out of they're good physicists, work in the factory on the basement floor. Now, can you imagine getting American physicists to do that? The PhDs? Highly unlikely. Different work ethic. And the problem here, the reason I'm being so harsh about work is that these are systems which have network effects. So time matters a lot. And in most businesses, time doesn't matter that much, right? You have lots of time. You know, Coke and Pepsi will still be around, and the fight between Coke and Pepsi will continue to go along, and it's all glacial, right? When I dealt with telcos, the typical telco deal would take 18 months to sign, right? There's no reason to take 18 months to do anything. Get it done. It's just, we're in a period of maximum growth, maximum gain.
So here he was asked about competition with China's AI and AGI, and that's his answer. We're ahead, we need to stay ahead, and we need money.
AI is going to play a role or competition with China as well.
So I was the chairman of an AI commission that sort of looked at this very carefully. And you can read it. It's about 752 pages. And I'll just summarize it by saying, we're ahead, we need to stay ahead, and we need lots of money to do so. Our customers were the Senate and the House. And out of that came the CHIPS Act and a lot of other stuff like that. A rough scenario is that if you assume the frontier models drive forward and a few of the open source models, it's likely that a very small number of companies can play this game. Countries, excuse me. What are those countries, or who are they? Countries with a lot of money and a lot of talent, strong educational systems, and a willingness to win. The US is one of them. China's another one. How many others are there?
Are there any others?
I don't know, maybe. But certainly in your lifetimes, the battle between the US and China for knowledge supremacy is going to be the big fight, right? So the US government banned essentially the NVIDIA chips, although they weren't allowed to say that was what they were doing, but they actually did that into China. They have about a 10-year chip advantage. We have a roughly 10-year chip advantage in terms of sub-DUV, that is sub-5 nanometer
10 years,
chips.
that long?
Roughly 10 years.
Wow.
And so you're going to have, so an example would be, today we're a couple of years ahead of China. My guess is we'll get a few more years ahead of China, and the Chinese are whopping mad about this. It's like hugely upset about it.
Well, let's talk about a real war that's going on. I know that something you've been very involved in is the Ukraine war, and in particular, I don't know how much you can talk about White Stork and your goal of having $500 drones destroy $5 million tanks.
So
how's that changing warfare?
So I worked for the Secretary of Defense for 7 years and tried to change the way we run our military. I'm not a particularly big fan of the military, but it's very expensive, and I wanted to see if I could be helpful. And I think, in my view, I largely failed. They gave me a medal, so they must give medals to failure or whatever. But my self-criticism was nothing has really changed. And the system in America is not going to lead to real innovation. So watching the Russians use tanks to destroy apartment buildings with little old ladies and kids just drove me crazy. So I decided to work on a company with your friend Sebastian Thrun, and as a former faculty member here, and a whole bunch of Stanford people. And the idea basically is to do two things: use AI in complicated, powerful ways for these essentially robotic war. And the second one is to lower the cost of the robots. Now you sit there and you go, why would a good liberal like me do that? And the answer is that the whole theory of armies is tanks, artillery, and mortar, and we can eliminate all of them.
So here what he's talking about is that Ukraine has been able to create really cheap and simple drones. By spending just a couple $100s, Ukraine is creating 3D printed drones. They carry a bomb, drop it on $1 million tank, and they've been able to do that over and over again. So there's this asymmetric warfare happening between drones and more traditional artillery.
So there was an article that you and Henry Kissinger and Dan Huttenlocher wrote last year about the nature of knowledge and how it's evolving. I had a discussion the other night about this as well. So for most of history, humans sort of had a mystical understanding of the universe, and then there's the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment. And in your article, you argue that now these models are becoming so complicated and difficult to understand that we don't really know what's going on in them. I'll take a quote from Richard Feynman. He says, "What I cannot create, I do not understand." I saw this quote the other day. But now people are creating things they do not, that they can create, but they don't really understand what's inside of them. Is the nature of knowledge changing in a way? Are we going to have to start just taking the word for these models without them being able to explain it to us?
The analogy I would offer is to teenagers. If you have a teenager, you know they're human, but you can't quite figure out what they're thinking. But somehow we've managed in society to adapt to the presence of teenagers, right? And they eventually grow out of it. And I'm just serious. So it's probably the case that we're going to have knowledge systems that we cannot fully characterize, but we understand their boundaries, right? We understand the limits of what they can do. And that's probably the best outcome we can get.
Do you think we'll understand the limits?
We'll get pretty good at it.
He's referencing the way that large language models work, which is really essentially a black box. You put in a prompt, you get a response, but we don't know why certain nodes within the algorithm light up, and we don't know exactly how the answers come to be. It is really a black box. There's a lot of work being done right now trying to kind of unveil what is going on behind the curtain, but we just don't know.
The consensus of my group that meets on every week is that eventually the way you'll do this, it's called so-called adversarial AI, is that there will actually be companies that you will hire and pay money to break your AI system.
Like red team.
So it'll be instead of human red teams, which is what they do today, you'll have whole companies and a whole industry of AI systems whose jobs are to break the existing AI systems and find their vulnerabilities, especially the knowledge that they have that we can't figure out. That makes sense to me. It's also a great project for you here at Stanford, because if you have a graduate student who has to figure out how to attack one of these large models and understand what it does, that is a great skill to build the next generation. So it makes sense to me that the two will travel together.
All right, let's take some questions from the student. There's one right there in the back. Just say your name.
Earlier you mentioned, and this is related to just the comment right now, getting AI that actually does what you want. You just mentioned adversarial AI, and I'm wondering if you could elaborate on that more. So this seems to be, besides, obviously compute will increase and people get more performant models, but is getting them to do what you want issue seems largely unanswered in my view.
Well, you have to assume that the current hallucination problems become less, right, as the technology gets better and so forth. I'm not suggesting it goes away. And then you also have to assume that there are tests for efficacy. So there has to be a way of knowing that the thing succeeded. So in the example that I gave of the TikTok competitor, and by the way, I was not arguing that you should illegally steal everybody's music. What you would do if you're a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, which hopefully all of you will be, is if it took off, then you'd hire a whole bunch of lawyers to go clean the mess up, right? But if nobody uses your product, it doesn't matter that you stole all the content. And do not quote me, right? Right?
You're on camera.
Yeah, that's right. But you see my point. In other words, Silicon Valley will run these tests and clean up the mess. And that's typically how those things are done. So my own view is that you'll see more and more performative systems with even better tests and eventually adversarial tests, and that'll keep it within a box. The technical term is called chain of thought reasoning, and people believe that in the next few years, you'll be able to generate 1,000 steps of chain of thought reasoning, right? Do this, do this. It's like building recipes, right? That the recipes, you can run the recipe and you can actually test that it produced the correct outcome.
Now that was maybe not my exact understanding of chain of thought reasoning. My understanding of chain of thought reasoning, which I think is accurate, is when you break a problem down into its basic steps and you solve each step, allowing for progression into the next step. Not only it allows you to kind of replay the steps, it's more of how do you break problems down and then think through them step by step.
The amounts of money being thrown around are mind-boggling. And I essentially invest in everything because I can't figure out who's going to win. And the amounts of money that are following me are so large. I think some of it is because the early money's been made and the big money people who don't know what they're doing have to have an AI component. And everything is now an AI investment, so they can't tell the difference. I define AI as learning systems, systems that actually learn. So I think that's one of them. The second is that there are very sophisticated new algorithms that are sort of post-transformers. My friend, my collaborator for a long time, has invented a new non-transformer architecture. There's a group that I'm funding in Paris that has claims to have done the same thing. So there's enormous invention there, a lot of things at Stanford. And the final thing is that there is a belief in the market that the invention of intelligence has infinite return. So let's say you put $50 billion of capital into a company. You have to make an awful lot of money from intelligence to pay that back. So it's probably the case that we'll go through some huge investment bubble, and then it'll sort itself out. That's always been true in the past, and it's likely to be true here.
And what you said earlier.
Yeah. So there's been something like $1 trillion already invested into artificial intelligence and only 30 billion of revenue. I think those are accurate numbers. And really, there just hasn't been a return on investment yet. But again, as he just mentioned, that's been the theme on previous waves of technology. Huge upfront investment, and then it pays off in the end. Well, I don't know what he's talking about here, because didn't he run Google? And Google has always been about being closed source and always tried to protect the algorithm at all costs. So I don't know what he's referring to there.
You think that the leaders are pulling away from the rest?
Right now. And this is a really, the question is roughly the following. There's a company called Mistral in France. They've done a really good job. And I'm obviously an investor. They have produced their second version. Their third model is likely to be closed because it's so expensive. They need revenue and they can't give their model away. So this open source versus closed source debate in our industry is huge. And my entire career was based on people being willing to share software in open source. Everything about me is open source. Much of Google's underpinnings were open source. Everything I've done technically.
What? Didn't he run Google? And Google was all about staying closed source, and everything about Google was kept secret at all times. So I don't know what he's referring to there.
Everything I've done technically. And yet it may be that the capital costs, which are so immense, fundamentally changes how software is built. You and I were talking, my own view of software programmers is that software programmers' productivity will at least double. There are 3 or 4 software companies that are trying to do that. I've invested in all of them in the spirit. And they're all trying to make software programmers more productive. The most interesting one that I just met with is called Augment. And I always think of an individual programmer, and they said, that's not our target. Our target are these 100-person software programming teams on millions of lines of code where nobody knows what's going on. Well, that's a really good AI thing. Will they make money? I hope so.
Yes. So a lot of questions here.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. So at the very beginning, you mentioned that there's the combination of the context window expansion, the agents, and the text to action is going to have unimaginable impacts. First of all, why is the combination important? And second of all, I know that you're not like a crystal ball and you can't necessarily tell the future, but why do you think it's beyond anything that we could imagine?
I think largely because the context window allows you to solve the problem of recency. The current models take a year to train, roughly there's 18 months, 6 months of preparation, 6 months of training, 6 months of fine tuning. So they're always out of date. Context window, you can feed what happened. Like you can ask it questions about the Hamas-Israel war, right, in a context. That's very powerful. It becomes current like Google.
Yeah, so that's essentially how Search GPT works. For example, the new search product from OpenAI can scour the web, scrape the web, and then take all of that information and put it into the context text window. That is the recency he's talking about.
In the case of agents, I'll give you an example. I set up a foundation, which is funding a nonprofit, which starts, I don't know if there's chemists in the room, I don't really understand chemistry. There's a tool called ChemCrow, C-R-O-W, which was an LLM-based system that learned chemistry. And what they do is they run it to generate chemistry hypotheses about proteins, and then they have a lab which runs the tests overnight, and then it learns. That's a huge accelerant in chemistry, material science, and so forth. So that's an agent model. And I think the text to action can be understood by just having a lot of cheap programmers, right? And I don't think we understand what happens, and this is, again, your area of expertise, what happens when everyone has their own programmer. And I'm not talking about turning on and off the lights. You know, I imagine, another example, for some reason you don't like Google. So you say, build me a Google competitor. Yeah, you personally, you don't build me a Google competitor, search the web, build a UI, make a good copy, add generative AI in an interesting way, do it in 30 seconds, and see if it works, right? So a lot of people believe that the incumbents, including Google, are vulnerable to this kind of an attack. Now, we'll see.
How can we stop AI from influencing public opinion, misinformation, especially during the upcoming election? What are the short and long-term solutions from?
Most of the misinformation in this upcoming election and globally will be on social media. And the social media companies are not organized well enough to police it. If you look at TikTok, for example, there are lots of accusations that TikTok is favoring one kind of misinformation over another. And there are many people who claim without proof that I'm aware of that the Chinese are forcing them to do it. I think we have a mess here. And the country's going to have to learn critical thinking. That may be an impossible challenge for the US. But the fact that somebody told you something does not mean that it's true. I think that the greatest threat to democracy is misinformation, because we're going to get really good at it. When I managed YouTube, the biggest problems we had on YouTube were that people would upload false videos and people would die as a result. And we had a no-death policy. Shocking.
Yeah, and also, it's not even about potentially making deep fakes or kind of misinformation. Just muddying the waters is enough to make the entire topic kind of untouchable.
I'm really curious about the text to action and its impact on, for example, computer science education. I'm wondering what you have thoughts on, like, how CS education should transform to kind of meet the age.
Well, I'm assuming that computer scientists as a group in undergraduate school will always have a programmer buddy with them. So when you learn your first for loop and so forth and so on, you'll have a tool that will be your natural partner. And that's how the teaching will go on. That the professor, he or she will talk about the concepts, but you'll engage with it that way. And that's my guess. Yes, ma'am, behind you.
So here I have a slightly different view. I think in the long run, there probably isn't going to be the need for programmers. Eventually, the LLMs will become so sophisticated, they're writing their own kind of code. Maybe it gets to a point where we can't even read that code anymore. So there is this world in which it is not necessary to have programmers, researchers, or computer scientists. I'm not sure that's the way it's going to be, but there is a timeline in which that happens.
The most interesting country is India, because the top AI people come from India to the US. And we should let India keep some of its top talent, not all of them, but some of them. And they don't have the kind of training facilities and programs that we so richly have here. To me, India is the big swing state in that regard. China's lost. It's not going to come back. They're not going to change the regime as much as people wish them to do. Japan and Korea are clearly in our camp. Taiwan is a fantastic country whose software is terrible, so that's not going to work. Amazing hardware. And in the rest of the world, there are not a lot of other good choices that are big. Europe is screwed up because of Brussels. It's not a new fact. I spent 10 years fighting them. And I worked really hard to get them to fix the EU Act. And they still have all the restrictions that make it very difficult to do our kind of research in Europe. My French friends have spent all their time battling Brussels, and Macron, who's a personal friend, is fighting hard for this. And so France, I think, has a chance. I don't see Germany coming, and the rest is not big enough.
Given the capabilities that you envision these models having, should we still spend time learning to code?
Yeah.
So here she asked, should we still learn to code?
Because ultimately it's the old thing of, why do you study English? If you can speak English, you get better at it, right? You really do need to understand how these systems work, and I feel very strongly. Yes, sir?
So these were the most important parts of the interview. And with that being said, this is it for today's video. See you again next week with another video.
And in the hybrid programs that I was associated with, they were cloning not only species like plants and animals, but they were also regenerating tissues of extraterrestrials and growing them and then cloning them. And then they started cloning humans a very long time ago. It's interesting now that in the news, after talking about this a few times, that now they're coming forward. China just has been doing it forever, but in their underground facilities, cloning people, cloning, of course, you heard about, they cloned their first primate. And hey, they can clone a primate. This verifies what I'm talking about. Well, they can definitely clone a human. And they're also growing humans for organs. But clones are everywhere. Human, extraterrestrial, they're wandering all over. You know, some people will refer to these as doppelgangers because they can grow a human to look like someone and mind program and implant them with circuitry and things like this. And they will really think they had this life and implant them into a business or into whatever organization they want.
Well, is there a hidden agenda? Because you've just brought something up that just scares the living daylights out of me. To replace us with a clone, and who would know the difference?
This is one of the probably only times, George, that you got me on a negative part, because there is an agenda. There are hundreds of people being cloned in underground facilities in Australia and in some parts of the United States. There's no reason to, clone people and keep it a secret and make horrible experiments on these people and mind implant them.
We're primarily concerned about humans cloning human for their own purpose.
Right.
But what about ETs cloning humans?
I mean, it's possible. I'm not aware of any extraterrestrials that are, cloning humans. I am aware of extraterrestrial beings that are collecting DNA from humans.
That's been ongoing.
Ongoing, but for a good reason, not for a bad reason. They can make anything too. I mean, they're already at an advanced level of science that we would not understand to do that if they needed to.
Is a clone, Emery, basically human being identical to the clone? And so they eat, they sleep, they do everything that a human does?
No, because they're, they still have to go through the growing process. It's a lot of work.
You can't speed that up.
Well, they have sped it up. They can make a George Norrie in about 8 years, from baby to you.
Okay.
The problem is the brain cannot grow that fast as the body can. There seems to be a problem they're having with the brains.
What's the agenda? What's the mission here to clone?
I don't know that agenda. I can just give you my opinion on it, that they would use it for a fear type thing, such as a fake alien invasion, definitely control, like a secret army, a secret group of assassins. It's very frightful just to know that they're doing this on a mass production conveyor belt is horrifying enough.
From now on, when you in the city, I want you to start paying attention to buildings that's like this. Pay close attention to them. Put your eye on them motherfucker. And really look at them, how they're structured. And ask yourself, why are they so uneven? Like, it's not evenly based on the ground. Like, it's slanted down and shit. Really look at those type of buildings. Put your eye on them motherfuckers. And I want you to just ask yourself, why do some of these buildings be looking like that? Why are they so off like that? Ain't that motherfucker supposed to be straight and stable? Why it look like something happened? Maybe it's not supposed to be like that. It's like some type of flood or landslide happened and it just covered up a bunch of buildings. So they just uneven now. Almost as if it might be more underneath them or something. Oh no. It really does just make you question, if it was just meant to be a basement, why are the windows deep down in there? Like, when you just make like a little small window? Because don't get me wrong, I know exactly what egress windows are. I know exactly what they are and how they're supposed to look. Yeah, this is not that, bruh. This just looks off and strange. No, something's fishy going on here.
If the center of the Earth is extremely hot, then why is the bottom of the deepest oceans very cold? I want you to let that sink in for a minute. Because when divers swim very down to the bottom of the ocean, doesn't that mean they are now closer to the source of the Earth's heat, but instead at that depth the water is actually colder? It doesn't make any sense. The deepest part of the ocean is called the Challenger Deep, and it has a depth of approximately 11,000 meters, with a temperature of 3 degrees Celsius, which is just above freezing point of water.
We are the first species.
Pay attention, people. Pay attention.
To be aware of evolution, to be aware that we are affecting our own evolution by everything that we do, the babies we eat, the food we eat, the wars we fight. We are the...
I guess the news just don't want to mention this. So y'all, trees are walking now. Plants are talking telepathically to humans and everything around you. Water has memories and feelings. Y'all thought I forgot, didn't you? They already closed, y'all. This is Cleve Baxter. He was from the CIA. He was a polygraph expert. I know you probably think like they don't have brains or functions that show emotions. Cleve thought that too, y'all. Y'all know that lie detector test that they hooked Wiz Khalifa up to? Well, Cleve did the same thing to his plants. He started thinking, how can I get a reaction out of this plant? He was like, wait, I know, I'll set it on fire. And the plant's polygraph activity started going crazy, scratching up and down. He was only thinking about it, y'all. Plants do produce a sound that's undetectable by a human ear when they're stressed out. So my question is, what do y'all think nature and outside is going through with all this bad stuff happening on the earth? And we're not gonna sit here and act like y'all don't see these trees walking. In the 60s and even now, y'all really used to make fun of hippies. When they used to say spread peace, spread love, keep the world happy. When they used to be on LSD in nature saying everything was alive, colorful. You know, LSD, what they used to use on MK Ultra patients. Makes you wonder why they made all them psychedelics illegal. And don't even get me started on water, y'all. Scientists have even said that the human consciousness has an effect on the molecular structure of water. So what do y'all know about Earth? It is more going on than what is being told. That's all I'ma say. Y'all stay dangerous.
I'll just give you one example. If you go to McDonald's, anywhere in the world, you will find French fries, or chips as you call them, and you will find that they're always made from the same potato, the russet Burbank potato. This is a potato from America that's unusually long and difficult to grow, but that's what they want, because when you're McDonald's, you like those red boxes with a little bouquet of very long chips. It looks really good, and so they insist that all their potatoes be russet Burbanks, and they further insist that they have no blemishes at all. There's a very common defect of russet Burbank potatoes called net necrosis, and you've seen potatoes with a little brown line sometimes, or spots that come through it. Well, McDonald's won't buy them if your potatoes have that, and the only way to eliminate that is to eliminate an aphid. And the only way to do that is with a pesticide called Monitor that is so toxic that the farmers who grow these potatoes in Idaho won't venture outside into their fields for 5 days after they spray. And then when they harvest their potatoes, they have to put them in these atmosphere-controlled sheds the size of a football stadium because they're not edible for 6 weeks. They have to off-gas all the chemicals in them. So you see, the desire for a certain kind of chip leads to a certain kind of agriculture.
Gary Stolman suddenly appeared on the set of KNBC's evening newscast just as consumer reporter David Horowitz was being introduced.
Pardon me? What is this? Let me see what it says. All right.
He's got a gun to his back.
All right, well, let me read this. Folks, we have someone on the set who's standing here and would like me to read this copy which was just handed to me. You want to tell me your name or not? What is it? And Gary, where are you from?
KNBC then cut away from its newscast.
You know, it was like the Twilight Zone. I didn't know what was going to happen, and I didn't realize, I said to myself, this is not really happening to me.
Stolman's statement was a bizarre tale of space creatures and the CIA. Minutes after he handed it to Horowitz, the police arrived, and Stolman put the pistol down and was led away.
This isn't my first time doing a video about the map of 2025. And we're still in January, and everything that has happened so far, honestly, this is not very far off. You look at Cali and it's completely underwater. You look here, obviously that earthquake is, what I am saying is the map of 2025 is, of America specifically, is something that could possibly happen. At first, I was kind of like, nah, it's not enough time for it to happen, but everything that so far happened in January, honestly, this is not very like far off. And so all I'm saying is, I don't know. I mean, I heard that they're not letting people get passports or renew their passports. I've heard, I mean, they're closing the border. Maybe they're trying to keep us here for something. And so all I'm saying is, watch out. Because this is the prediction of the doomsday map of 2025. Prediction, okay? Perhaps that's why all the celebrities were buying bunkers and all those different things. All I'm saying is, I mean, I say watch out, but what can we really do? We can't do nothing. Really, it's just knowledge. And honestly, it's just a conspiracy at this point.
Remember John F. Kennedy Jr.? He was declared the front-runner for the New York Senate seat back in 1999. Days later, his plane crashed into the Atlantic Ocean, and his rival, Hillary Clinton, was elected senator. Mary Mahoney was a Clinton White House intern. She knew enough of the inner workings of Bill's sexual advancements to be a star witness during the Clinton impeachment trials. She was brutally executed at a Starbucks she was managing in 1997. In 1993, White House counsel Vince Foster was found dead in Fort Marcy Park near D.C. He supposedly killed himself, and among a lengthy list of potential foul play, the bullet was never found. Then there's James McDougal, a key witness for White House prosecutors. He was serving his 3-year sentence for bank fraud at the Fort Worth Federal Medical Center in Texas. And just before he was to give a testimony before the grand jury, McDougal suffered a heart attack in solitary confinement. In 2015, Walter Scheib, a White House chef hired under Bill Clinton, joined the list. His body was found at the bottom of a river, nearly 2 miles from the base of the trail he was reportedly hiking. An autopsy determined that Scheib's death was accidental drowning, but he might have known too much. 27-year-old Democratic National Committee staffer Seth Rich was shot and killed in D.C. this year. There is speculation that he was the source of the controversial leaked emails allegedly sent by DNC staffers, and that he may have been murdered in retaliation. Then Sean Lucas, the lead attorney in a fraud case against the DNC, was found lying on the bathroom floor by his girlfriend when she returned home on August 2nd. His death was reported classified, pending the results of an autopsy. To this day, questions.
Folks, we have someone on the set who's standing here and would like me to read this copy which was just handed to me. You want to tell me your name or not? What is it? Gary. And Gary, where are you from?
At that point, the control room was ordered to go to black, kill the studio mics, and put up a standby slide. But Horowitz continued to read, and the gunman kept the gun in his back.
I was warned in 1981 by someone with connections at the CIA to stay off the computers, that they didn't trust people on computers. When I began receiving disturbing calls from my parents, which led me to believe that something terrible was going on, I was then forced into a mental hospital in Tallahassee, where I learned that my brother-in-law had been driven insane in the same manner that someone was trying to do to me.
The gun was a precise replica, and police, who by then had entered the facilities, made plans to deal with the situation. But when the statement had been read, the gunman placed the gun on the desk, and anchorman John Beard grabbed it. Burbank police wrestled the man to the floor. He has been identified as Gary Stolman, and he said he never intended to harm anyone. Indeed, the gun proved a fake. But Stolman may still face a variety of charges. He is the son of pharmacist Max Stolman, a former member of the Channel 4 News team reporting on medicine and related issues. Max Stolman said, "I do have a sick son. He has been hospitalized a number of times. I am thankful he wasn't."
Are you on it? You know, the White House does like to prepare all the food, and the kids were not always enthusiastic about the food that they were being served. So they were always trying to call for pizzas. And you can't order a pizza to the White House. I'll just tell you that right now. And we didn't.
Sometimes there were exceptions.
Yeah, sometimes you could go out maybe, and one of the kids could go out maybe and meet the
and pick it up.
Yeah,
Get
the
it through
pizza
the
driver.
fence.
Yeah, but the first time you would have thought that war had been declared. There's a pizza truck outside that says a pizza was ordered. What do we do with it? We had lots of challenges like that.
Clinton's Secret Service code name is Evergreen, and her initials are HRC. USA Today did some digging and found apparently that there is no evidence linking Clinton to the ship or that it is a human trafficking vessel.
Shit. In 2010, the earthquake of Haiti, not only American taxpayers, but the whole world has given billions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation for the Haitians. Not even 2% of that money went back to Haiti. So Mr. Trump, we are asking you, begging you, the Haitian community will side with you if one day you ask Hillary Clinton publicly to disclose the audit of all the money they have stolen from Haiti in 2010 after the earthquake. Haiti is a very poor country. Haiti needs defenders. You said you will champion our cause. We welcome you, sir, and we will work with you. But please, ask publicly Hillary Clinton, during your next debate, to publish the audit of all the money they have stolen from Haiti. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
She'd win the Oscar and remembers exactly how her mother reacted.
When I won the Oscar for Misery, she said, "I don't know what all the excitement about. You didn't discover the cure for cancer." I forgot to thank her that night.
You know, you did thank her. At the end of your speech, you thanked her.
No, I did not. I did not. You go back and look at it. I didn't.
We did go back and look. Then we showed her.
My family, my friends, my mom at home, and my dad, who I hope is watching somewhere.
What do you think of them?
Thank you. Why did I think I didn't thank her? Oh, what a relief.
Why does that mean so much to you?
Because she should have had my life. When she died, I said, "Come into me." I wanted her spirit to come into me. Even though we had so many difficulties, I wanted her spirit to come into me.
So we all know what the background of Ellen's show represented, right? It represented this island, and the people who all went to her show knew this. So let's create our own list. Oprah attended her show. Kevin Hart attended her show. Michelle Obama. Bruno Mars. Tracy Morgan. Chadwick Boseman. Michelle again. Serena Williams. Nicki Minaj. Addison Rae. Russell Wilson. They all know what this represents. Will Smith. Kanye West. Selena Gomez. Demi Lovato.
I also want to thank the Hollywood Foreign Press for acknowledging comedy. Jim, you know this. It's weird. Normally they look at comedians as like very special people. Thank you very much. And you allow us to be in the room with the adults. You nominate us. You even have a category for us. Comedy and dancing. There's a lot of dancers who could have been up here tonight, but they didn't make it.
It's been almost a decade since we lost the beloved comedian Robin Williams, and while his death was officially attributed to suicide, some people still believe that Robin was the victim of a secret society, the same one that Jim Carrey tried to warn us about.
Is that a gang sign? Have you,
Oh, like you don't know what it is. You don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
Oh, you don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know.
The viral theory about Robin Williams' death being an Illuminati sacrifice stems from, believe it or not, a Family Guy episode. See, less than an hour before Robin's death was announced to the public, the animated sitcom The Family Guy aired a rerun in which Robin appears as a character who plays a role in Peter Griffin's attempted suicide.
Damn these hands.
Mwah! Well, I haven't been to temple in a while.
Now, many believe that this was just a bizarre coincidence, but after another comedy legend and Robin's longtime friend Jim Carrey started publicly talking about the Illuminati and Hollywood sacrifices, fans began to question the official narrative surrounding Robin's death. But how does Jim feel about what happened to Robin Williams? Does he actually think shadowy industry figures in Hollywood wanted to eliminate Robin?
Preliminary, and I again say preliminary, results of the forensic examination revealed supporting physical signs that Mr. Williams' life ended from asphyxia due to hanging.
To give you some context, Robin Williams was discovered dead at his residence in Paradise Cay, California on August 11, 2014. The final post-mortem examination report, which was made public in November 2014, determined that Robin took his own life through hanging. The report also stated that there was no alcohol or substances in his system, and the prescription drugs found were within therapeutic limits. According to the report, Robin had been battling depression and anxiety, but Robin's widow Susan Williams later said depression wasn't what took Robin, and she revealed that Robin had a debilitating brain disease called Lewy body dementia. But it didn't take long before different theories started popping up online. And like I said, people found it really suspicious that just half an hour before his death was announced, BBC 3 aired an episode of Family Guy that centered around Robin and featured a suicide attempt by the main character, Peter Griffin. In the
Every Keanu file in the Illuminati archive.
Okay, that's Keanu now, and here he is in Bram Stoker's Dracula in 1992.
He's barely aged a day. How old are these photos? And who are all these women? Hollywood immortals?
The Illuminati has spread their message using the charisma of actors for centuries, but get this, they found a way to keep them alive so their star power never dies.
Hollywood's leading men are making themselves immortal using the blood of young women. They're all hundreds of years old.
Every ageless leading man is one of them. Nicolas Cage, Brad Pitt, Larry David, and the most bloodthirsty of them all, Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's why they all date 19-year-old models who we never see again for their blood.
Do you remember these books from your childhood, the McGraw-Hill science textbooks? I mean, this company published all sorts of textbooks for elementary through high school kids, and I definitely remember reading some of these in my classes. But did you know that one of the companies that published these books was owned by Ghislaine Maxwell's father? If you don't know Ghislaine, she was Jeffrey Epstein's business partner, and she helped run his massive sex trafficking operation. She was the madam in the operation and would recruit girls into his terrible ring. But we're not really here to talk about her, we're here to talk about Robert Maxwell, her father. Now, Robert was an extremely wealthy British businessman. So in 1984, after Robert Maxwell had already acquired a lot of wealth, he purchased a publishing group. This group included publications in newspapers like the Daily Mirror, which is still in existence. I mean, there is a lot to uncover about Robert Maxwell. He was best friends with a lot of British royals. He rubbed elbows with celebrities, with the elite. And like I said before, he was extremely wealthy. He even had a massive private yacht that he nicknamed the Lady Ghislaine after his daughter. Now, with all of these powerful connections, there has to be some sort of controversy, right? Well, for decades, it's been alleged that Robert Maxwell was actually a spy. And people don't really know which intelligence agency he worked for the most, but he has ties to the Russian KGB, the British intelligence service MI6, and the Israeli intelligence service, the Mossad. People have alleged that Robert Maxwell was actually a triple or double agent, meaning that he might have been sharing information between 3 different Secret Service organizations. Obviously, this showed that he didn't really have anybody that he worked for in particular, he just chased the money and the power. It's very strange that his blood daughter Ghislaine would end up being directly involved with one of the biggest sex trafficking rings in world history. Now, you can read a lot about Robert Maxwell's supposed spying. One fact that I found interesting was that 6 former and current heads of Israeli intelligence attended his funeral, but his death was extremely suspicious. So in November of 1991, he went sailing on his private yacht, he disappeared, and just a few days later, his completely nude body was found washed up. According to people that examined Robert's body, there was a graze on his shoulder, but there were no other noticeable injuries. But something strange is that when experts took a look at his body, nobody could conclusively say exactly how he died. And the official statement said that he may have had a heart attack and then drowned as he was urinating nude on the side of his yacht. Years later, though, a lot of different things would come out about Robert, including the fact that he bugged a lot of devices and rooms that his own employees were in because he felt like they were being disloyal and he couldn't trust anybody. His own sons even came out and said that while they didn't know exactly what had happened to him, they knew that he didn't take his own life because he wouldn't do that, and he had talked about how he would never do that. So obviously, this is just unbelievably bizarre how this all ties into Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, that whole saga. And I feel like it's something that a lot of people don't talk about and the government really hasn't looked into. And back to the beginning, I can't ever really look at one of these books the same again.
Saw a little blurb update today on Epstein. It was showing a photo of him at Disney. He's sitting down at the table, Piglet's behind him. It's him and another guy sitting down, and this guy is holding this girl, like by her arms like this. That same girl is in another photo with Epstein. They're on the plane. She's like she's sleeping, she's laying down, and he's holding her like this. Then, come to find out, Disney sent kids to his island for snorkeling trips for like 9 years.
Snorkeling. Holy shit,
and
that
their cruise ships made stops at his island all the time.
Dude.
It's insane no one else is talking about it, but this is Shia LaBeouf in his new movie, and it's him dressing up as a Greek goddess. So this is for a new undisclosed role that he's playing in a movie called Megalopolis, from legendary director Francis Ford Coppola, the man to direct all the Godfather movies, Apocalypse Now, and The Outsiders for those who watched that in freshman year of high school. I did not expect Shia LaBeouf to look like this for this movie, but it's awesome.
What do you think about Jeffrey
Epstein was a CIA Mossad asset that was recruited and was doing a blackmail operation. I think that's crystal clear. No question about it. So
pretends to be the party guy, just like Diddy.
Drugs,
cameras, drugs.
The CIA, as part of MKUltra, had Operation Climax, where they would lure Zhongs in with drugs and prostitutes, and then this drunk CIA schmuck would sit on the opposite of a two-way mirror and take notes on what, just evil, wicked stuff. And that's what they're using Epstein for, was blackmail operations. And they got some pretty high-level people snared into that. And they haven't released the entire list of close Epstein confidants, but Israel's former prime minister was one of them.
Barack?
Yes, they got a picture of him visiting Epstein at his New York apartment. And he was well connected to Epstein, but that was all in secret. And that is the intelligence part of Mossad. And of course, they couldn't do that without coordinating with the CIA.
I ask this question now, the more I learn, there just always seems to be this connection between the CIA and the Mossad. And I'm going, is it just...
No,
they're the same organization. Like the more you look back into history, and it's always somehow the CIA and the Mossad is there on the day that JFK gets shot. We learn about like MLK. We learn about 9/11, and I'm just going, okay, why does it seem like there's a union here, a marriage here?
Mossad is like the sister of the CIA. They're joined at the hip, kind of like Siamese twins, and they use each other for intel and operations and things like that. They are extremely close and in an extremely sensitive relationship. Oh yeah.
And it totally explains what Epstein was doing. And also Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, when he died, and didn't he die rather mysteriously? I'm not sure.
He fell off, he found dead off his yacht, floating in the water. They claimed it was a heart attack.
Of course.
Just when he was coming under scrutiny for arms dealing and connections with the CIA and being a Mossad agent, actually a double agent with Mossad and KGB. All of a sudden he's found dead floating next to his yacht, and...
happens all the time.
Oh yeah, it's just, just one of those things. See
But a ton of Mossad agents, and I think a former prime minister of Israel attended his funeral. So it's like, guys, hey, maybe
it's like,
Elaine.
It's very difficult that they find out the hard way to cover up the truth, because it's going to leak out, somewhere.
My favorite conspiracy theory is that there are people hired by the government to cause rush hour traffic, and it's funded by big oil and SSRI distributors, because what else are you doing in traffic other than burning gas and being miserable? It's my favorite because I just made it up.
So the other day, I had stumbled upon this TikTok video of a girl talking about going so far down the rabbit hole that she might never get out of it. And in this video, she started talking about this conspiracy theory called the "We Are the Food" theory. And basically, this theory is tied into a 1973 thriller movie called Soylent Green. Basically, it's a dystopian movie set in New York where the city of New York is just completely overpopulated. And I guess to save on resources like food, they sell this product that's made out of pulverized human remains. And of course, none of this is tied into any real life events. It's just, I guess, an entertaining conspiracy theory saying, what if our government were to be doing stuff like that? And I never really found anything in the internet, but at least to my understanding, it's basically, what if people that go missing in national parks or anywhere in the world, people that are, you know, HT'd, and I put the thing up here what I mean, are getting disappeared, getting unalived, and having their bodies turned into dust, food that we be eating every other day. It could be in your McDonald's burger, it could be in your protein shake, it could be in just countless different things, right? It's a sick theory. It's an entertaining one, but it's disgusting to think about that possibly stuff like that could be happening, but it probably isn't, and I hope not. I don't know. What do y'all think about this conspiracy theory? Have y'all heard about it on here? What do y'all think about it? Put it in the comments below. If you have any other sort of very obscure conspiracy theories that I might not have heard of, please tell me in the comments below. I want to read more on these kinds of things and possibly make more videos like this if you all like it. But until then, y'all have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.
What the heck did I just watch? Do you guys know Anna Wick, right? If you don't know who Anna Wick is, she is a you-know-what. And anyway, I just saw this video. I saw that video. Like, I kind of fell off on following her. Her twin brother is Shia LaBeouf. He is related to the... What? And apparently, she stated in this video that, like, her mom separated them at birth. What? So she talks about, you know, if you're following her, how her dad is like Stephen Bruce, and that her parents, like, they separated them at birth because she said it was some ritualistic thing and part of a thing. Okay, I don't even... What? Okay, so now... This is what's even crazier. Now she just did a video a few hours ago and she is apologizing, saying she owes her family an apology for not having conversations privately with them. And she's apologizing to us. But like, I'm like, wear purple in your next video and put your hair in a ponytail if you're in danger. It's like, I think she was threatened. Go watch the video if you haven't seen it. The latest one she posted. This is weird. This is getting, like, weird.
There was an event that took place back in the late 40s known as the Babylon Working Ritual. Now, this was a ritual that was carried out by Jack Parsons, JPL. You know, people will even to this day say that JPL stands for Jack Parsons Laboratories, but on paper it's Jet Propulsion Laboratories. JPL is major. It's a historic, I mean, so much surrounding this, so much history here. Jack Parsons was not professionally trained, yet he was tapping into high technology and building rockets. How do you do that without any type of formal training? There were no rocket programs in America before Jack Parsons. This is paramount to understand. This guy was tapping into, you know, Theosophy, Thelema, the religion of Aleister Crowley. He was a disciple of Aleister Crowley, and he was working with L. Ron Hubbard, who was the founder of Scientology. Interestingly, not only did L. Ron Hubbard start Scientology, but he was a science fiction writer. The movie Battlefield Earth with John Travolta, well, that was written by L. Ron Hubbard. Interestingly also, John Travolta is a Scientologist, right? Now, I mention this because this is a man who writes science fiction, yet he started a religion based on science fiction. There has to be something in there where he's getting these clues and these ideas. He's getting these from another realm.
Of supernatural activity that took place after that ritual was performed.
Babylon Working was successful, according to Jack Parsons. Matter of fact, Parsons said in his Antichrist Manifesto that they were successful and that a child was conceived in that act, and that there was a spirit known as Hilarion. The government puts together this group that says we're going to get answers to what exactly took place out there in the desert in California by Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard. They go to Jack Parsons, and keep in mind, Jack Parsons is also working with the government. He's now been given, special privileges on things. So they go to him and they say, Jack, all of this stuff that's happening right now, did you do this? Did you do this? And he said, I think so. Now, shortly thereafter, Jack Parsons blows himself up in a lab. Accidental. It was not intentional. Belief was that whoever opened up the portal had to close the portal. Well, Jack Parsons is now dead. Wow. And the federal government is now having to understand and depict exactly to the public what's happening here. And so this group is researching, and out of that group, they finally start to make some headway. They know they're dealing with entities. And so in all of that, they begin to try to make contact with those entities, maybe for some help, maybe because they're trying to figure out how to close this thing, maybe they're trying to figure out how to undo what Jack Parsons did. So they go through satanic rituals to communicate, because that's the only method of communication that they know that works to contact these entities. In doing this, there's a small faction known as the Collins Elite. But once they began to engage in satanic rituals and magic and alchemy, this group says, hey, you know what? This is not what we signed up for. This small group raises up. It's a faction. It's a counterpoint group, which means that they are no longer in agreement with the big group. They have a different opinion. They say, we have a Christian worldview. This goes against our Christian worldview. And so they see that entities are being channeled and communicated with, and now technology is being given through these rituals to these other members of the government. So the Collins Elite says, whoa, 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 this is dangerous. You guys are really playing with fire here. We can't support this. We can't do this. And they came up with this idea that the aliens were going to take over, and that in order to protect our country from the aliens, from the entities, they believed that we needed to instate a forced theocracy based on the law of Moses. Okay, this was what's known as a limited access program, or an LAP. A limited access program means that nobody in Congress has to know about this.
The Collins Elite were a counterpoint group within different governmental organizations that were party to satanic ritual being.
Alright guys, here is my sci-fi version of TV shows that you need to drop everything and watch right now. Number 1 is a show called V. Just the letter V. Nothing else, just V. Trust me, it's fucking amazing. They did a TV miniseries and then a movie, and then like 2 seasons. It's great, it's great, it's great. And then another show is called Alien Nation, and it's a cop show. It's like a detective show, because in the concept, the aliens come down to Earth and they like assimilate and become part of our society. And the show takes place like after that happened. And so there's just like it's like a buddy cop show with an alien cop and a regular cop. And I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, it's fucking amazing. And another really good show is a show called The Profiler, about a criminal profiler who's chasing like a serial killer. Great, 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 great show. Hands down, best show. But look, trust me, y'all need to go watch V because of Mark Singer's acting alone. His acting is so good.
If you made it this far, you're different. These theories aren't for the weak-minded or the easily controlled. If it woke something up in you, you're not alone. Make sure you subscribe, share this with someone who's ready to see the truth, and stay tuned, because we're just getting started. If you made it this far, you're different. These theories aren't for the weak-minded or the easily controlled. If it works something up in you, you're not alone. Make sure you subscribe, share this with someone who's ready to see the truth, and stay tuned, because we're just getting started.